Home is where connections are made, memories are formed, and ideas are born. And no one knows home better than NFM. Thanks for tuning in to I Am Home, the podcast that goes deeper than trends and dives into what it means to make your house a home.
Welcome back to another episode of I Am Home podcast. It's Renee Quevedo here, recording from NFM headquarters with our hosts, Becca Sudbeck.
Hi, Renee.
Hey, Becca. And Hilary Waltmnath, our visual display general manager.
Hey.
Hey, Hilary. And today we're continuing our home improvement series of the month of March with wallpaper. There is so much to cover in this episode, and I'm talking more than walls and surfaces here. Sorry, I had to laugh at my own joke. Wallpaper is a really limitless way to improve your home appearance, and you can go minimal in texture or big and bold. It's really going to be a fun conversation today, and I'm excited to introduce our guests here coming up. But before we get to that, let me tell you why we're even doing this podcast, and that's because NFM is more than just your everything home store. We're in the business of improving lifestyles because your home life should be your best life. Learn more at nfm.com. Okay, for our conversation today, we thought it'd be most beneficial to bring on two design experts as our professional resource for the conversation on improving your home with wallpaper. I want to welcome Bethany Bratches. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Awesome. Welcome in, Bethany.
Thank you.
Yes, and then we have Chelsea Heppner.
Hello.
Hi, Chelsea. Thanks for joining us, both of you. You are both our esteemed interior designers in our design gallery here in Omaha. And Bethany and Chelsea, I'd just love for us to start with you both telling us briefly about kind of how you came into the interior design field to begin with.
Okay. I'll go first. So I was always one of those kids who rearranged my room and wanted to paint and do all of these things. And as a young child, I was very interested in it. So I went to, even in high school, I would be like, antique shopping on my after school and doing all that kind of thing. I went to college and got my degree in interior design, and then my first job was actually in New York City at one of the larger fabric and wallpaper houses.
Oh, wow.
And so I've been around wallpaper for a long time.
I love that.
That's
so
awesome.
You'll know right about our first topic here with the history of wallpaper.
Hopefully.
I love that. How about you?
So growing up, I was always more of like a math and science, like loved structure and symmetry, and but I also loved to sketch. So I was always sketching in a sketchbook, and my dad kind of put in my ear that he wanted to be an architect when he was younger. And so I eventually went to school for architecture and got to school. I went to school in Chicago, and I got there, and they were like, screw how this is going to function. Like, let's talk about your concept. Like, don't worry about how the building is going to stand up. Like, let's talk about concept. So pushing that, I felt like the conceptual side of design in general kind of pushed me into the interior side, where I could really hone in on like all the details of a space in a better way. So
I love that.
So yeah, so eventually went to interior
The creative
design.
side won out over the other side.
It did.
Good for the left side of the brain.
Yeah. Right.
Awesome. Well, I think that's important for us to just get a vibe on you two and kind of why we think you're the experts that you are. So I guess, Bethany, let's start with you here and talk a little bit about the history and the origin stories behind wallpaper. I know a lot of us come to think of wallpaper nowadays as the nice sticky substance that you can just slap on and
Right.
easy X-Acto knife around all your light switches and things. But it is an art. So let's hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a DIYer, that's great. You can do the peel and stick, and there's a place for that. But originally, I think wallpaper's been around for centuries. It started in the 16th century. The Chinese would do black ink on rice paper and put it up. So there's always been this, desire to decorate homes, and way back in the day. It became popular, in Europe and then eventually the U.S., and we have done wallpaper in our homes for every decade,
Yeah.
20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. It did fall out of favor a little bit in the 90s, and then the sales really, really went down. I think wallpaper has always had a reputation of being, difficult to put up, difficult to take down, And now, of course, it isn't. But and it was very labor intensive back in the day because they would do block print and hand painting and all of that. And so it has gotten a lot easier over the years. But wallpaper is just a great way to make your home creative and stylish and
a little self-expression outlet, if
exactly.
anything.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. When I was doing a little bit of the writing for this, I got stumped by block printing. I think of a printing press, and then I think, how does that apply to a wall easily? And it's probably not that easy. I mean, you're literally probably double downing on stamps all over your walls, which is crazy to think that.
Mm-hmm. They would take wooden blocks and in all different shapes, and they would carve them, and then they would dip them into ink and literally just stamp them all the way across. So it was very labor intensive and really a craft.
Yeah, and it's like hand done.
Yeah. End of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll get into the trends a little bit more a little bit later, but I think some of that's even coming back a little bit, this more like very repetitive, minuscule kind of stamp look in that kind of peel and stick wallpaper. But can you guys speak a little bit about how this application of wallpaper has benefited the interior design field and what has it opened up?
I think just the layering of different textures and patterns in a space just creates this richness that you can't necessarily get just by adding things into a space. So I think that again, just it provides that layering effect of just bringing that texture and pattern in a unique way.
Do either of you have any favorite trends that you like to see with the wallpaper?
Favorite trends.
Or least favorite, I guess, could be an easier one to tackle.
One of the trends that's kind of popular right now is dark and moody rooms, and so a lot of people will choose wallpaper for that or paint or whatever, but it's kind of a switch from where we've been, with everything being light, and of course I love that too, but there is a place for a little dark moodiness in your room, in your home, especially rooms that are north facing. They're already dark, and so instead of fighting that, you kind of lean into it, and wallpaper is a great thing to add for something like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm just riffing off of that some more. I guess, are there preferred walls that you would suggest to people, or how does even, tackling the subject itself, you begin to decide what makes the most sense for where to put this wallpaper?
Right. I think it goes down to what you want the focal point to be in the space. I think the accent wall kind of went away for a while, and I think it's coming back in the fact that you can really highlight, a specific part of a space by just applying, a rich pattern or texture.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm curious, what do you see more repeated pattern in wallpaper, or do you see more murals? Is it a mix? What's more popular?
I think it's a mix. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really, and it depends on, I think, the project and the client, and I think this grand millennial style where, you've got your florals and things is coming, I think coming back and being reintroduced in a really nice way. But also that, repetitive, geometric, there's always a richness in that can, really bring a nice addition to the space.
Yeah, for sure. I see a lot of both, but I'm always really intrigued at a mural that spans across an entire wall. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, it's a popular way to do it too. It's makes it really unique, and especially if you can wrap it around a couple of walls, it creates a lot of interest. Yeah, so and there's just everything is popular nowadays. You can't really go wrong. It depends on your style and your personality, and what almost anything goes.
Yeah, so. To Renee's earlier point about self-expression, that's self-expression is presiding trends.
Yeah.
Almost.
Well, and then the fact that now that it's become more of a easy material to work with, the option to change it out, it makes it super easy.
Right.
Do you guys find that when you're getting clients in for projects and stuff, are they looking for that recommendation for the wallpaper in the design gallery, or, you know, is that something that they typically already have and they're like, how do I put a couch with this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, in general, I feel like here in the Midwest, I feel like some people, you know, there's this like fear that it's so permanent, and
Right.
what Beth was discussing, you know, again, you know, they've made it to where it doesn't have to be so like permanent. So I think that just educating our clients that, you know, this can be as permanent or non-permanent as you want it to be.
Right.
I think that's something that has helped kind of encourage the application.
I've seen a lot of really fun, I want to make sure that that's not a question I have later, but I've seen a really cool few applications where people put it on their furniture or like change out the backing in like a cabinet of some sort.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the cabinets I've seen.
Yeah,
Yep.
it looks so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I myself dabbled in putting it on like the risers between each of my steps, and I
Yeah.
really liked how that turned out. I was going to go for like a very loud print there just to see, because I had like super light floors and I just wanted to hide more of that like dog hair that was sticking to the risers. But you know, I still had another person to think about when I was choosing my wallpaper. So we went with the subtle texture, but
Yep.
it's still
The safe
way.
way.
Yeah, and it
Right.
goes with all the other kinds of crazy things I wanted to add to my house at the same time. So it's awesome. And there are many choices that come when you're looking at the wallpaper. So what are some things that listeners should consider when thinking about adding wallpaper to their home?
How they use the home, how they use the space. Function, you know, if you're using it in a bathroom, you want to make sure it's vinyl probably, moisture resistant. You know, I like to put wallpaper in places like hallways where there might be little fingerprints,
That's smart.
walls that are imperfect that you want to cover that aren't just, you just can't get them smooth is another good way to put them. Powder rooms are always a good little place because it's like a little jewel box, and it's a public space where a lot of, you know, guests will use and things like that. It's a fun way
I
to
like
box.
that.
I
Yeah, I
like
like
that.
that visual.
Yeah.
Of
For
calling
sure.
the powder bath that.
Yeah.
That's fun.
But like even in my own home, I recently wallpapered my closet door and the closet.
Oh my
So
Fun.
it's just fun, you know,
Yeah.
and it was easy, just peel and stick stuff. But there's so many things you could do. I often recommend to clients backs of bookshelves. I like that. And, you know, there's also this quiet luxury trend going on where people just want texture and neutral and rich textures and fabrics and things like that. And I think grass cloth is one of my go-tos
Yeah.
because it's just really gives a nice
What
little
is
subtle
what
touch.
is that? I don't know if I know what that looks like.
It is a variation of grasses, actually, texture. It's not always grasses. I mean, the materials are different now, but it is a very, it almost looks like fabric.
Yeah.
And it's just gives the wall a very sophisticated textural look.
It's like very finely woven.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
grass cloth in my dining room, grass cloth wallpaper. I'll send you a picture.
Yeah. Is it like physically the grass, or is it like
It's
screen
textural.
printed?
I don't know if it's grass.
I think mine is something like that.
Yeah.
Like a natural material.
Yeah, it's definitely a
Yeah.
natural material.
Yeah.
And
That sounds
it's
great.
woven, so like it's definitely it adds just a lot of texture. I mean, it's pretty neutral still, but it's just added texture.
Oh, I love that. Give it a little more depth
Yeah.
almost
Right.
for the room.
So not every wallpaper has to be this print or a stripe or whatever. There's some subtle ones that are really nice too. Yeah.
So in terms of like, okay, I've got a really cool wallpaper I'm loving. How would one go about determining scale, size? What's too much? You know, is there any? Would you maybe lead someone away from attacking too much of one room with wallpaper, or you know, is that?
Depends on the space. Depends on the
Yeah,
client.
It really does. I think there is a point that you could go overboard for sure.
Yeah.
But it really depends on I would say what the client's main goal is, and
Personal preference.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think there's a good rule of thumb, like thinking about size of pattern, which I think we talked about a little bit. So if you've got really dainty, fine patterns, like if you have two, I mean, you could do a situation where you do the whole space like that, but you can find balance in using like bolder, larger patterns paired back with smaller, like daintier patterns. Like
Sure.
there's a nice balance that can happen between like size and scale of your pattern, and thinking about like rugs are patterned, pillows are patterned,
Right.
curtains can be patterned, your wallpaper can be patterned. So thinking about like the ratio of size of your pattern is a good way to help it kind of all play really well together. Or if you want to go big and bold with everything, to your point about like personal preference of the client, like
Yeah.
do that too. But
I think it's hard to determine that sometimes when you're shopping online. I mean, that's where you see a ton of variety of wallpaper, but sometimes just that swatch that they give you
Right.
It's hard.
huge.
Right.
And it takes over the entire wall, so you really got to be doing the math when you're looking
Right.
at those dimensions to make sure you're not,
Yes.
you know, you're getting what you want
Right.
at the end
For
of the day.
sure.
'Cause
Right. And they do have those like visualization tools to where you can really like take a photo of your space and scale it to see, you know, how it would look, which is really helpful.
Yeah.
You
that
know,
is helpful.
in determining, you know, how it will apply. But yeah. It's
And I think if
definitely-
you mix the scale, that's important. So nothing should be the same scale. So if you're having a large, you know, let's say floral wallpaper on an accent wall, you don't want the sofa to be the same scale. You want it to be a texture or something different than, you know, just mix up the scales.
yeah.
Yeah.
Would that hold true when you're looking at like paint? Do you normally have people picking paint at the same time they're picking the wallpaper, just to make sure that
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
not just
Definitely.
like a stark difference in it?
Right.
Yeah.
It all plays together.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
Ideally, it all gets decided at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Like the furniture, the finishes, all the things.
That's probably the most fun for you guys to put it all in one box and show it off.
yeah, it is fun.
Okay, we've got a couple more questions here. I'm just curious on some of the unexpected ways you guys have seen wallpaper being used in the home for people, whether it's covering up imperfections or, you know, attacking many different surfaces with different designs. What are some of the fun things you guys have seen in the industry?
I always like it when somebody does the ceiling because the ceiling is like the ignored fifth wall, you know,
Definitely.
and I think if clients are not wanting a huge commitment, that's a good way to kind of introduce something that's fun and just it's not a big commitment, you know, and it's unexpected.
Yeah,
So.
I love that.
And I think this, you know, the DIYers of the world, like I've seen a lot of furniture, you know, in general used, whether it's a drawer lining or a drawer face or, you know, like you said, the back of a sofa.
Yeah.
You know, something, again, super unexpected, but then just kind of adds an element of style and sophistication to a space.
Yeah.
For sure.
It just feels like an endless creative tool when it comes to
Yeah.
like how it can be incorporated, and
The possibilities are endless.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure the challenges as well
Yeah.
with trying to make it all work. Okay, I have a little fun one. Do you guys have any future predictions for wallpaper?
I think we're going to see wallpaper that creates an illusion. So instead of having to put up paneling in a space, I think we might see it in wallpaper. It's just easier, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
More of an architectural feature might be coming, you know, into.
So gone are the days of buying 2x4s for flowers. Right. Just getting the wallpaper
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
That's actually better. But you know,
Yeah.
if you don't want to go that route, sometimes it's just easier to put up wallpaper than to start putting up paneling and
Yeah.
you know, picture molding or whatever the case may be. So
That's a really interesting idea. I was in another like showroom that had done that on like smaller walls to kind of create that like lifestyle. It had like really ornate like crown molding wainscoting that they added just on one wall, kind of behind the sofa. And I was like, that's really, really fun. So I hope I see more of that.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Anytime you add architectural interest to a room, it's going to elevate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I love that. What about you, Chelsea? Any fun ones you've
Ooh,
got?
I don't know if I have anything to add to that.
I'm curious to know. I like thinking about our wallpaper conversation. Like, I have very vivid memories of like family members' homes that had the border around the top of the
yes.
room.
Yeah.
And you know how like things start to like cycle back in? I'm like, I'm so curious if we're going to see.
Come back.
I don't think
Strips
so.
of wallpaper
Right?
versus,
Yeah.
like, entire cover.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
yeah. I had the unicorn,
Oh,
the unicorn border for
Uh-huh.
sure.
And matching
Powder
bedding.
pink walls. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's literally how my mom decided. My sister and I shared a room until she left the house, and we both liked two different colors. And so to merge them, she found a wallpaper that could go over the middle line all the way around the room, and it was like purple and green, so like relatively compatible colors. And then it was like a floral pattern that just covered up the like dead center line that went around the whole entire room. But she was just trying to mend.
I
you
love
go.
that.
Very creative,
I love
very creative.
that.
Yeah,
Having a
but
say in what your room looks like is just,
yeah,
I
that
don't know,
was-
an important like milestone in your life. I really
is.
so I love that she embraced that.
completely.
Yeah.
And she made it work.
Yep.
Okay, I want everybody before we close off to pick who they would be as a wallpaper. Like what texture, what pattern, what would you be if you had to embody wallpaper? Who wants to start? Do you guys have yours at the ready? Okay, yeah, let's start with
Yeah, start with that.
okay. I like toile. Do you know what toile is?
Oh, yeah.
It's a classic pattern.
Yeah.
You know, it's French, and I think it means scene or something. But it's typically a highly detailed scenic pattern. But it's repetitive. But it's a classic. It's been around forever, and so I think I would be that.
I love
Been
that.
around forever.
But is it like sepia? Like it's or can it
no,
be any color?
it can be any
I
color.
feel like I usually see it in like a sepia.
But
color,
yeah, I think it maybe started that way,
Okay.
and I love that.
Yeah.
But it can be done in any
Yeah.
color. Yeah, it's a very French pattern.
Yes.
Does that explain a little bit of the interior design that you like to
I mean, I like everything.
Yeah,
But you know, even if you look at this, like I kind of like these kind of
ornate.
patterns.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because Chelsea is more graphic and bold, which I am not, but I love it on her. You know, so it's
It's
very
like you guys
personal.
dressed
I
for
think
the
we
question.
did.
I
We
love
kind of
it.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
about you,
so
Chelsea?
going from that, I'd probably be a bold, more geometric pattern, like a houndstooth maybe, but
Love that.
scaled kind of in a unique way.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think
incredible.
that's- Yeah.
Hilary, do you have one on mind?
Oh,
yet?
I could like list 3, I think.
Okay, but I know you like to just give a million options, but you have to pick
I
one
know,
this time.
I know. I would love something. I'm gonna combine 3 in one. If it's textural and has some sort of combination of like a stripe and a like traditional floral, I think that would be.
Do you know what I
my
saw
vibe.
when I was kind of writing this was they're doing paneled wallpaper where like one stripe of one pattern will happen and then another and then they stripe the 2 different textures. They could be
yeah,
like
that's
completely-
fun.
And it looked so like regal. And I mean, it was because they chose like a burgundy and a gold. That's probably why I'm using the word regal. But it was really cool and made me want to do that.
Yes.
Immediately.
See,
Yeah.
combine them all.
Yeah, I guess you can't have your way.
Yeah.
today.
Thank
Hilary.
you.
Okay, I think mine would be some sort of probably like a natural a natural texture, but just I love outside, like something that reminds me of outside.
Yeah.
Maybe
Something nature.
yes,
Yeah.
nature inspired.
Grass cloth feels like your vibe.
Well, I guess I do. Yes, that's
Well, you already
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How wonderful and perfect.
yeah.
I think I would have to. I might trend towards the grand millennial. Like I love seeing like the weird butterflies and the bugs, or like the repeating tigers. And I'm probably just speaking straight from my generation. But I love it. All the animals.
It's all coming back again.
I know.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah, I saw somebody on like, I don't know, my favorite resource, TikTok. They were using fabric as wallpaper. And
that's
so they like
I
took,
love that.
yeah, I did too. And they were just, I don't know, some craft store with a ton of fabric, and just, it was like fun to see them like pull out like fabrics that they were like drawn
How
to.
were they applying
And
that?
I think you could probably use like wallpaper paste, couldn't you, to
Yes.
apply that?
In fact, upholstered walls, have you ever seen those?
Yeah.
Those are so cool because there's actually like a little padding behind it.
Yeah, we looked at a
And,
house with upholstered walls.
That's
Very
a really
cool.
difficult technique, but it's cool.
Yeah, to your point about quiet luxury. It's
Right.
like, if you
Oh,
know, you
yeah.
know that that's what's expensive.
Yes. You don't
love
walk in
that.
there and go DIY.
Yep, yep,
Right.
yep.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome. I love getting to talk about being creative in the home. I think that speaks to my inner, left brain and passion. But that was great. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for coming on. I want to thank Becca and Hilary. We've got Tyler and Scott over here working the mics for us, keeping us sounding nice. And I want to thank all of our listeners. Remember to drop us a rating, give us a like, and subscribe to I Am Home wherever you listen. For more about us, though, you can head over to nfm.com where you can shop 24/7 for today's top furnishing styles. Until then, remember, home is what you make it.
Thanks for joining us today for I Am Home with Tyler Weisskopf, Hilary Waltemath, and Becca Sudbeck. No one knows home quite like NFM. So if you'd like more information on home design at NFM, please check out nfm.com and leave us a review on the podcast platform of your choice.